Paying attention these days can be quite difficult. As we examined in the previous video on why we're so distracted these days, beyond just the daily temptations of technology, our brains were simply designed to be distracted. So, with this being the case, what can we do to be more attentive to the things we do and the people around us? Before we go about exploring more about how to train your brain to pay attention, please hit that subscribe button to help the channel out, as we're dedicated to educating more on brain behavior and business. It's important to understand what exactly happens to our brain when we pay attention. The general idea of attention is that it acts like a spotlight, focusing on one thing alone. Recent research indicates that the way our brains behave is quite different from that. In fact, attention is more of a filtering process than spotlighting. We aren't simply shining a light to a given thing when paying attention, but instead we are suppressing the lights everywhere else to filter in what we feel we need to give attention to. Previously, it was noted that the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that gives commands to other regions, played a key part in attention. While this still remains to be true, further studies done by Michael Halassa, a neuroscientist at MIT, have shown that there are other deeper circuitries at play, ancient areas which previously were believed to have no part to attention. According to his research, the full circuit of attention extends from the prefrontal cortex all the way to the basal ganglia, the part of the brain associated with motor control. As John Monsell, a neurobiologist at the University of Chicago, states, the notion that motor structures are involved in this is appropriate, in a way, that they should be right at the heart of the process of deciding what you will attend to next, what you will focus your sensory resources on next. This discovery changes the way we see not only attention but perception and cognition as a whole. The involvement of motor systems shows that what we perceive doesn't only affect how we behave, but it goes both ways. How we choose to move and act shapes the input of what we perceive and attend to as well. As Helene Slagter, a cognitive scientist at VU University Amsterdam notes, we experience the world not just using our bodies, but because of our bodies. And brains represent the world in order to meaningfully act in it. When it comes to attention, we also like to think of it as a straightforward singular process, but in fact it's actually a group of sub-processes. According to Solberg and Matier's clinical model of attention, there are 5 types of attention. The first one is focused attention. This is our ability to focus on a given stimulus, both internal and external. It can involve auditory, visual, tactile, and cognitive stimuli. Sustained attention is another one. The ability to stay focused on something for a long period of time. When we achieve sustained attention, our brain is filtering through many pieces of information and prioritizing it accordingly. This process of sorting through and suppressing irrelevant, unimportant information is what is known as efficient selection. Then there's selective attention. Just as the name implies, this is the ability for us to select and choose a given stimulus we want to be attending to. An example of this is when we're focusing on a given task despite having various sounds or visual distractions around us. Then there's divided attention. This is our ability to simultaneously respond to different stimuli, dividing our attention up into chunks. For example, when we are multitasking, this is a form of divided attention. Multitasking is quite useful and efficient. There's actually been studies that show that the act of multitasking itself can be quite damaging to our brains. Finally, there's alternating attention. This is our ability to alternate between different stimuli, moving from one thing to another. The difference between this and divided attention is that we are allocating our attention to one given thing instead of dividing it up into multiple parts. To concentrate better, we need to start by improving our attention. While aging is definitely out of our control, and as we age, our attention sort of wanes, according to Dr. Kirk Daffner, a neurobiologist and director of the Center for Brain-Mind Medicine at Brigham, there are 3 things we can be more aware of to improve attention. One of them is cognitive training of some type. These days, there are plenty of apps and websites that gamify cognitive training, which helps to improve response times as well as attention. The more you play, the more cognitive activity your brain is going through, which can help in daily life. Mindfulness is another one. The act of being mindful is all about learning to focus your attention on the present moment, honing in on your breathing and thoughts. In a world where we're constantly always on and plugged into something, mindfulness is an important step to sitting still, even just a few minutes every day, and paying attention to what surrounds you. Dr. Kirk Daffner also suggests to exercise and sleep well. Studies have shown that there is a direct correlation between exercise and increased cognitive ability. Regular, consistent exercise, even if it's just a few minutes a day, is well known to improve concentration, motivation, and mood. We get a boost of dopamine in our brains, and as a result, this helps to increase our focus and attention. Like a domino effect, this can then improve the quality of sleep we have, which is also extremely vital for fostering good attention. As Dr. Daphner states, when you exercise, you increase the availability of brain chemicals that promote new brain connections, reduce stress, and improve sleep. And when we sleep, we reduce stress hormones that can be harmful to the brain, and we clear out proteins that injure it. There's so much more to attention and how we get distracted. Just as I mentioned earlier in this video, we made a previous video on why we're getting so distracted so easily. To learn about that, watch the video on the left, and please make sure to subscribe so we can continue making content like this.